Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Healing with Hila. This is your space for aligning, expanding, and reconnecting with who you truly are. I'm your host, Hila Ferguson. I'm a transpersonal hypnotherapist, life coach, and energy worker. Thank you so much for inviting me into your life. I was feeling really inspired to create an episode that is focused about relationships and honestly, and particularly my own, and just sharing a little bit more from the dynamic of being married for almost 22 years and, parenting two young children and doing it from a really conscious spiritual standpoint. I've been feeling recently like our relationship has gotten a bit stagnant, pre-kids especially. We would have these deep conversations, about the laws of the universe and just manifesting, creating, our future, what we wanted. And we've kind of fallen out of those habits, having the girls. Bedtime is complicated. By the time everybody's in bed, we're both kind of worn out and do our own thing. And I found myself really stirring up within my own vortex, my own intentions, and wanting that level up, like wanting us to get deep again and to get into that level again and really bring that up with our parenting. My husband has been struggling with dealing with our 4-year-old recently, and I keep kind of sending him to some books and trying to support him in understanding how to navigate, this journey with her. And so again, I was really, really feeling like this needed to happen. I feel like I had to sift through some stuff to get to that place too, to understand that that's really what I wanted. I just wanted us to level up. I wanted us to get back to, connecting on a deeper level because honestly, I feel like I was feeling a lot of anger towards my partner and a lot of just stuff was coming up for me that was, misplaced in the sense that it brought me to what I wanted, right? So it was all those unwanteds that popped up and I was able to sift through it and really understand that no, underneath it, this is really what I want. I just wanted us to level up. And so I was excited because this conversation actually happened. And it was interesting because it didn't really start as such, right? It was kind of like an argument. And I stayed very centered. I stayed so connected to my intention. I did a lot of meditation work too prior, and it just started to evolve. It just started to evolve and get deeper. And he was really hearing me and he was really getting open again to, just reapplying the concepts of the universe. And I think it's just funny because it's always been a dance, I feel like, between me and my husband, where I like live and breathe this stuff, right? It's like in my mind, I literally have guidance talking to me all the time. It's been my whole life here all the time. And he's more new to this. He kind of gotten into this, after meeting me and just really gravitating towards all these principles and going on this journey with me for the course of our relationship. And many times I feel like it's like a pendulum swinging with him where he's either super immersed in this work and he really sees it, feel it, believe it, and, create from it, or he kind of goes into his like analytical, scientific, observed reality mindset. And it's nice to be back in a space where he's waking up again into these principles of the universe and remembering, oh, yeah, that's right. All of this does make sense. All of this, did support me. And so he's been super open again to listening more to Abraham Hicks and for us to just open up conversations about the laws of the universe, how they apply into our day-to-day life. And it's been really exciting. And after we had this conversation, I found myself in this really amazing space of inspiration and feeling the need for those moments where we go into these conversations to start becoming more public and to allowing you guys to have a little bit of an insight, to just our natural processes. And so I started to consciously actually record different exchanges throughout our days between us. And we sat down and recorded a few things together. And so I am going to play a piece of that in this episode. And I actually think that it might, birth more. I really feel another series brewing and coming. And I was getting a lot of feedback that people were really enjoying me sharing about parenting and relationships. And I think we're going to focus on that for a little bit. And so before I'm going to play you guys the piece we recorded together, I wanted to chat a little bit about this piece that came through around parenting for me that just solidified more of those principles that I've already opened up for you guys in our previous podcast, and just some stuff that I've been focusing on again, listening more to, immersing myself more in so I can show up better for my girls and just keep creating in the directions that I want to keep creating. And so, one of the segments in the book that we've listened to summarized very, very quickly these principles around, child rearing. And there's a part in our conversation later where James refers a little bit to this segment. And so, I wanted to actually open up a little with that. I want to talk a little bit about these principles that were brought up and just spend a few more moments touching on them, and then we're going to move into our chat. And so, the number one principle that is in alignment with the laws of the universe and is moving us into the most, aligned connection and relationship with our kids and beyond. And honestly, you'll hear James talk about how these principles are absolutely applied to every relationship you will have. But in specific, this was for kids. He or she are perfect exactly as they are and are becoming more. And that really comes from the aspect of they are own beings. They came here with free will, like me and you. They are, a soul particle focused into this earthly body and consciousness. They came here to learn their lessons. They are becoming more, and they are perfect. They are truly perfect. Their, true essence and who they are is what we would, call perfect. Number two, they didn't come here to satisfy my intentions. And again, we are so big into placing our own framework of good and bad, right and wrong onto our children. And whatever it is that our intentions are, we have this expectation for our child to just follow up on that. And the bottom line is that they did not. Nobody came here to satisfy our intentions. It was our intention to satisfy our intentions just as much as it was their intention to satisfy their intentions. So we are all independent beings creating, right, in this matrix of life that came to find our own alignment through our own satisfaction of our own intentions. Number three, it's my job to work on what they do around in my mind so I feel good. And I think that's such a interesting and really, really powerful premise, because when my kid, comes home, after having a terrible day and is throwing things and is tantruming left and right, it's my job to work around whatever it is that she is doing to stay aligned. So I feel good. It's not her job to fix the way that I respond and react to the things that she's bringing. And again, I feel like as human beings, we are so activated by the behavior of others that we don't allow ourselves the power to remember that I can work around whatever it is that is happening in my own mind so I feel good. I can choose that. What an important space to be in, whether you're raising your child or you're interacting with your partner, or you're really, engaging in any relationship in your life, anything, if it's your government, if it's whatever it is that the environment around you, right, is quote unquote causing you to feel. What a powerful, important idea this is, right? That it's my job to work around whatever it is that is happening, whatever it is that they are doing, right, in my mind, so I feel good. And number 4 is it's not their responsibility to please me. And again, I feel like, especially from our children, there's an expectation, right, of following, directions and doing as they're told and truly, in a way, pleasing me. And the difference is, and people are, well, then it's going to be a world of chaos. They're just going to do whatever the heck they're wanting to do, And the bottom line is it's not, because if I'm in alignment, if I'm in a place that's pleasing me, if I live through the glasses of reality that, is pleasing to me, my reality is pleasing to me, and my children are in my reality a lot, then their behavior will be pleasing to me without, me forcing it out of them, without me expecting them to be in that way. And so I can't tell you guys how grateful I was to be able to share this with my partner. Again, I've been immersed in this, and it's my way of living, and it's actually been really fun to revisit and stirring it within me. I know stirred the need within me to have it, happen with him again. And I just, I sit back and I think to myself, what a gift it is that I'm giving my kids right now to be in sync with my partner on this level. And more than that, they literally are listening to these conversations. We're having them in the car, we're having them at home, and they're listening to that, right? They're listening to that and they're being mindful of this, view and standpoint. And like I said, I do a lot of that already. And I am, their main, like caregiver. I'm home more with them. And it's just been really, really exciting to be able to invite, my spouse into this mix and really aligned more. And so I'm really hoping that the exchange between us helps you. I kind of left it raw. It was just us talking. Um he gets to like places of digression that I feel and I pull him back, and it's just, again, I left our dynamic very raw. He was funny because I feel like he was just feeling so, on the spot with trying to record that we actually had a conversation where I was at the computer recording and he was on the other side of the room chatting with me. And eventually he sat down and picked it up with me and sat down for about 20 minutes. So I got to give you guys this piece. And so I just wanted to fill you in, because you're missing the beginning. But I basically was talking to him about a moment in our previous conversation about how we create our own reality and how we invite everything into our lives, right? All interactions are coming from, a place within us that's called them in, whether from our free will or destiny. And so we were chatting the other day and I was asking him about it. And so he came through and he's like, honestly, I'm having a really hard time with this. And I asked him to tell me, what do you mean? What part, is he running in his head that's he's struggling with? And he was saying, well, you want to tell me that, when you're PMSing, and you're feeling like crap and you're being a totally, bitch, that it's my fault. That it's my fault, that, it's my doing. And I thought it was such a great example. And so I said to him, I said, no, it's not your fault, but it is in a way your doing, in the sense that you are not responsible to the behavior that is coming out of me. You are responsible to the fact that the behavior that's coming out of me, that is unpleasing and unwanted by you, is coming into your reality. And so I explained to him and I said, here's the thing. There's a condition within you, right? That's calling this kind of attitude from me. And then there's a condition within me that's playing, right? My hormones being out on, all whacked up and me not being centered and balanced and able to, keep myself at check. That's coming out at you, right? And creating this perfect storm. The way that you solve this, the way that you shift and change your reality is by you, right, changing what you deserve. And you begin to move into, deserving peace, deserving respect, whatever, deserving, an easy, connection to your partner, even through those hard days of the month, whatever it is. And what will happen is a few things. Either I will be super rigid, where I stand, and our relationship will fall apart. I will not be able to be part of your reality. Or my behavior will not change during those times. I will just find myself expressing it to other people. It will not come right into your reality. Or, we both will have an active, want to feel more balanced and connected. And actually, by you clearing up your stuff, will help me clear up my stuff. And I will feel better and solve my PMS issues and actually will feel much, much better during my, cycle months. So, I kind of asked him about that when we were talking again and just asked him, if he had time to reflect about the things that we were saying and, just how, being responsible for all the things that are happening in your reality has been sitting with him. And so you'll hear, we start chatting, he starts talking about some stuff and it just kind of grows into other topics. And I'm hoping that it would just stir you guys up in, aligning in your life. As always, I'm so, so open to any kind of feedback or questions or anything you would want to hear more of. I hope you enjoyed this part.
And on some levels, sure, you know, but there's still that, you know, logical, analytical science part, of my brain that likes to dissect, you know, everything in some cases down to the syllable and the tone in someone's voice, from one word to another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah, that's a big argument.
yeah,
My tone.
we've had that discussion, but it's not just you.
Yeah.
Like it can just be the way, somebody says, good morning when they walk past us on
Yeah.
vacation. I'm like,
Okay, but now I like it. So listening to this new,
that was fake as hell.
yeah. So now listening to this new thing that, right, it's your filter. Every one of those is your thoughts that you're choosing to think in that moment, and you can totally choose to think a different one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
What do you mean?
So, like, does that stir up the thing that says, okay, yes, there's a part of me that is like that, but it's obviously not benefiting because I'm reading reality through my glasses that's not necessarily true. right? It's not even necessarily the intention. Like I come with good intentions and you think I was, trying to be, a bitch or whatever. And, I'm confused, right? And vice versa, right? Somebody saying good morning to you, not realizing like why you're so cranky because like they were just having a bad day, but they have nothing against you. And maybe they came in their tone, but like whatever, right? It's your glasses.
Yep.
So thinking about that, right? Thinking that everything that is coming into your perspective is coming through whatever glasses you're wearing. Does that make you want to change the glasses? Like, does that make you want to say, I do get to be in charge? I am liberated now because every thought I think is mine and nobody can make me think it.
Well, yeah, like reminding myself recently that, well, and actually, I guess listening to the book, Vortex Reminding, because Abraham talks about how thoughts are vibrations, right? And I was like, oh, yeah, and I was thing in my head, which is actually a science thing, a physics thing, that everything vibrates, right? Like some things vibrate really
Yeah,
slow,
everything has a frequency.
right? Appears as solid matter, other things vibrate really fast, and you can't really touch it or smell it or see it, but it's there, right? And once something starts to vibrate, never ever stops, right? So if thoughts are vibrations, maybe,
And two vibrations echo each other and expand, gravitate towards each other.
and then and again, because I'm like, my science side of my brain goes crazy, I start thinking about like quantum stuff and quantum entanglement and how do vibrations get quantumly entangled, even if it's where you're trying to be in line, but like in your brain you're fighting about this other thing, and that's like weird, entanglement, right? Because wherever one vibration goes, the other one's going to.
That's the example of Lotus getting TV from one parent and no TV from the other.
Right. So it's like it's like a total mind fuck, to try to analytically grasp it, right? To just accept it is hard enough. But when you try to like break stuff down, well,
and that's why
that means that,
and that's why this process is not analytical. This process is rooted in your feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And feelings is what echo vibration, not thoughts. Well, thoughts do too,
thoughts
but
are vibrations.
Yes, they are.
And thoughts are feelings, right?
Well,
but we're conditioned in society to not act on some of those, or speak out on some of those because we're afraid of retribution, or we might lose our.
Well, you're digressing because that kind of like takes it out of the whole context of the rules of the universe, and literally what we were talking about in the sense of like bringing your grievances to someone is actually against the laws, because all you're doing is expanding the place within you that feels shitty.
Right.
And so, yes, whatever the reasonings and conditions of society of why we speak or why we don't speak, I feel like kind of don't matter to this conversation.
No, with the Abraham talking to the dad, right? And he asked, give me the three parenting things, right? And she actually gave him four little bits. But it was interesting to me as we were talking earlier, and I said, it was crazy to me. I thought about that for a second. I'm like, dude, that applies to every relationship, not just a parent-child relationship. But those four little gems apply to.
So what did you hear?
Any relationship that you have, right?
What did you hear?
They're not here to please you. Was like a really big one, for me, right? Like they're not here to fit your mold, your shape, your idea of what a partner, a child, a friend, is supposed to be, right? Like that's
so what's
a misconception.
What's their job instead?
To be happy.
To just find their own alignment.
To find their own alignment, right? To be happy, right? So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, and I think that that's the biggest piece, right, for us, and in our relationship and with the kids, like it's this idea that you feel like your partner needs to fit this mold, and if they only did this, you would feel better.
Yeah.
Like I do that. We all do that. Like if they only said yes to this, then, I'd feel better. If they only did, whatever. And And it is such a false premise. It's such a misconception because it is completely playing into the opposite rules of the universe. It's basically focusing on the lack, is basically saying, I'm very focused on the fact that I don't have this, and I'm really depending on somebody else to bring it to me versus, I already have this. If I only cultivate and find alignment within myself, find myself deserving, clean my stuff, forgive myself and find that space within me that deserves, then it would come. And the universe will deliver it through my partner or through someone else. And it's such a liberating concept because you're done being dependent, putting your happiness in somebody else's hands, like dependent on, like your fulfillment with someone else. And it's the same with your kids, right? If my kids only listened, if they didn't torture me, if they only did what they were told, then things would be better, right? Our day would feel so much better. And it's like, no, there is a condition within me that is creating this harmony, right? In my reality, in my household, with my kid, with my spouse, with my ever. Let's clean it up. Let's figure out what it is. Where does it sit for me, right? Am I angry at myself for something? Do I need to forgive myself?
Like, honestly, too, though, when it comes to at least my experience with the kids, like, you're just saying, like, oh, wouldn't it be great if she would just listen? Wouldn't it be great, if I was like, hey, we need to clean this up? Okay. Hey, it's time for, okay, it's time to be all done with this and we do that. Okay. Um, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's one of those things that like sounds good, but in reality, it would be awful.
Well, yeah, you don't want it to be little robots and just
like
say be
like,
yes, yes, sir.
Who learns anything from that, right?
Yeah.
I don't learn anything. They don't learn anything except how to be an automaton, right?
Yeah. But it would be nice if the house was clean. It would be nice if they would listen. Sure. Like we don't want to let that go.
Sure.
We're just going to go about it in the sense that says we deserve a calm household. We deserve a cooperative household. We deserve kids that love to do chores and help out whenever they can. We deserve to have peace when we come here. And then all those little components just happen on their own because it feels good to them to be in a household with people help. And it feels good to them to be in a peaceful space. And it feels good to them. And they feel in alignment. And then everybody's like, good, you know? And I think that's the thing. It was so funny. The other day I was thinking about it with Raya. Oh my God. And it worked so well, babe. So do you remember the Caesar stuff where, like they're like, no, not the part, but the just imagine, right? You have to project the reality. Like you have to just literally like send them little waves of like, this is what I want, right? I see you sitting down quietly by the door waiting for me before we go for a walk, right?
Yeah.
You have to like project the reality right before it happens. And so she was outside and she was being really naughty. And I asked once and she paused, right? And she looked at me and I could literally see like that shift in between. And I just closed my eyes and I took a breath and I just saw her comply. I just saw her do what I asked. I just saw her like go away, move away. I think she was trying to eat chalk or go in the mud or something. I don't remember. Something outside I didn't want her to do. And I just literally just like imagined it. And she was in a pause and she freaking
She did, huh?
He did. She followed up, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! I'm training my kid like psychically. This is just gold. This is amazing."
I'm excited, and I, hope you're not too upset about it. But you just mentioned, going in the mud, and I decided, what, they're little kids, and if they want to play in the
Oh no, we play in the mud all the time.
Be allowed to play in the mud.
No.
I'm not going to stop them anymore.
Oh, I never stop them. You get mad because they have holes. They dig holes in the yard. No, it's fine.
Not that they dig holes. It's where they dig holes.
It's
like,
fine.
Right next to the hose. Like,
no, it wasn't about the mud. It was really not about the mud, but it was just about, like both of us creating the reality. Because, obviously if she really objected my projection, it wouldn't have happened. But she was in a place to just listen and
which is a rare thing.
And I was in a place to just, pull. So it was great. But no, I love that part. That was pretty cool. And like I said to you, I think the other part that like hit me super hard and was just so meaningful was, the biggest thing you can teach them, right? The biggest lesson you can give them is how to listen to their own, guidance system.
Yeah.
It's like, how does that feel?
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that feel good right now? No.
Great if your kid was like, no,
No, that just doesn't
feels
feel
off.
good. That just feels off. I don't want to do it.
Do that.
I don't want to steal. I don't want to, I don't want to jump off that fence. No,
Yeah.
no, no. My inner voice is saying no. I'm listening.
Yeah.
My parents taught me to listen to that inner voice. And so I started to use a lot of that, because she's 4 and she's trying to, like really now balance through and regulate through her own emotions and understand them more deeply and complex, like there's more of a complexity, I feel like, and a choice almost, right? In choosing, like, okay, I can choose this feeling or that, or this thought or that. So yeah, so I started to do a lot of that, like, how does that feel? Do we want to feel sad? Do we want to feel happy? What can we feel about this? So, and just choosing the thoughts and recognizing the connection of your thought. Like, what did you just think that made you feel this way? Right. And then the I am game, it's been really fun too. So we got interrupted by kiddos and had to stop recording. And I wanted to just end with the little I am game that I've been doing with my 4-year-old. And I just started, to play with her on a space of affirmation and on a space of, just creating those affirmations and doing them together as a family. Hearing her dad say them, hearing me say them in a way feels even more powerful than just her saying it. Because again, we're modeling our own alignment to her versus just teaching it to her. I will start by modeling my I ams. I am a good mother. I am creative. I am good at what I do. I'm kind. I'm a good listener. And she'll respond with her own. And it's just been so cool, to just hear her. Sometimes she'll just mirror me, if I say I'm a good mother, she'll say I'm a good daughter. And sometimes she'll come up with her own, which has been really exciting. I've been stirring up a lot of, I love to do this or I love to do that. And I've been really, really trying to get her to become a very good listener of her own feelings and recognizing the power of her choosing her thoughts and how to respond to something, that she's in charge, that even if mommy says no, or if, sister takes something, there's a place within us that we can realign to, and then the universe will give us what we want. And so, really have been so excited sharing this journey with my girls. And then the almost 2-year-old is obviously hearing everything and is engaging with all of those things as well. One of the other things I've been doing with her has been really getting her to recognize the things that make her feel good. And so oftentimes if she's throwing a fit and even like in the midst of, like chaos, emotional chaos, I will constantly ask her the question of, what do you do that you love? What do you do that you're good at? What do you do that you feels good, right? And we will go through things like, is it your castle? Is it, playing dress up? Do you want to color? Do you want to paint? Do you want to do a puzzle? And it's been so amazing to see her snap out of these like emotional situations and recenter with those thoughts of, oh, yeah. Yeah, actually, if I did, play dress up right now, that feels good. And she would literally shift away from, the way that she's been feeling. And it's just been so great because I'm also cultivating for her, the process of self-care, right? What are the things that I do that make me feel good? Like she's starting to anchor those things for herself, starting to recognize them. And I just feel so blessed to be such a conscious parent and to truly, support my kids in that way. And so I really hope that today's episode inspired you in standing in that power and recognizing, your children as creators, your partners, and really following back on those principles that we talked to about in the beginning, those four principles about how it's nobody's responsibility to please us, and that it's our responsibility to construct a story in our mind, and that feels good if we want to feel good. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for inviting me into your life. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Healing with Hila. If you'd like to hear more like that, join me on my Patreon page for exclusive content and my mini podcast, Midnight Thoughts. I'd love to hear more from you. Leave in the comments anything you would like for me to discuss in future episodes. Thank you so much for inviting me into your life. So much love your way.